The chain snapped tight with a sound that didn't belong to a prank. Metal screamed against metal as the wheel jerked to life, slow at first, then faster, each rotation dragging iron links across the concrete floor like something alive and angry. The smell of oil, rust, and cold fear filled the underground room. Every light except one flickered off, leaving a single harsh beam hanging over the woman bound to the wheel. Mia Skywalker didn't scream. That was the first thing that unsettled him. Her wrists were locked above her head, ankles secured, body forced to move as the wheel turned. Long black hair spilled downward with gravity, brushing the floor, then lifting again. Blood hadn't been drawn. Pain hadn't been inflicted. Not yet. This was supposed to be harmless. A prank. A test. Ethan Corleone stood in the shadows with his hands in his coat pockets, jaw clenched, eyes cold and calculating. The same eyes that had ordered men erased without raising his voice. The same eyes that ruled half of Seoul's underworld through fear alone. Tonight, those eyes were fixed on his wife. His wife, who was supposed to break. Any second now, she was supposed to beg, cry, confess. Because guilt always leaked out under pressure. That was the rule Ethan had lived by his entire life. The wheel completed another slow rotation. Chains rattled. The motor hummed low and steady, a predator's purr. Mia's breathing stayed controlled, almost deliberate. Her lips trembled, not with fear, but with something closer to resolve. Ethan frowned. This wasn't how it was meant to go. He'd planned every detail with surgical precision. The private warehouse beneath the shipping docks. The trusted men dismissed hours earlier. The cameras shut off. The restraints calibrated to terrify without injuring. Enough fear to shake loose the truth he knew she was hiding. Because no one stayed that calm unless they were prepared. Or unless they had already accepted something far worse than pain. Mia, Ethan said at last, his voice echoing through the chamber. Calm. Measured. Deadly familiar. You can stop this whenever you want. Her eyes lifted toward him as the wheel turned again. Dark. Clear. Unafraid. You don't have to do this, she replied softly. Not please stop. Not I'll tell you everything. Just that. A warning. Something cold slid down Ethan's spine. For 3 years, he had loved her with the kind of devotion that bordered on possession. Married her fast. Protected her fiercely. Built walls of violence between her and the world. Yet somewhere between whispered nights and shared silences, doubt had crept in. Untraceable phone calls. Glances that lingered too long. A past she never fully explained. In Ethan Corleone's world, secrets got people killed. So he decided to scare the truth out of her. The wheel accelerated slightly. Just enough to make gravity cruel. Mia's breath hitched for the first time. Still, no confession. Instead, she closed her eyes and whispered something he wasn't meant to hear. I'm sorry. I tried. Ethan's heart slammed hard against his ribs. Tried what? The motor suddenly stuttered. Ethan snapped his head toward the control panel. That wasn't scheduled. He'd tested the system himself. Triple-checked every setting. The lights flickered again. And for the first time since the wheel started turning, fear appeared, not in Mia's eyes, but in Ethan's. Because pranks didn't malfunction. And loyalty tests didn't come with apologies. As the wheel slowed unexpectedly, Ethan took a step forward, instincts screaming that something was wrong. Deeply, irrevocably wrong. The truth he'd been hunting wasn't the one about to surface. It was bigger, older, and it had teeth. Before we go any further, hello, family Red Heart Hash. I'm truly glad you're here with me right now. Tell me in the comments where you're watching from and how you're doing today. I read more than you think. And listen closely. If you haven't subscribed yet, do it now. Because stories like this don't circle back twice. And there's a real chance you won't see this channel again if you scroll past. Trust me, you do not want to miss what happens next. Because this wasn't just a prank. It was the moment Ethan Corleone began to realize that the woman on that wheel wasn't hiding a betrayal. She was hiding a sacrifice. White right pointing backhand index subscribe, like, and comment which country you are watching from and we would pin the country with the highest likes and comments. The wheel ground to a complete halt. Ethan's hand was already on his gun before his mind caught up. Instinct. Survival. The kind of reflex that kept men like him alive in a world built on calculated violence and broken trust. But the warehouse stayed silent. No ambush. No rival family bursting through steel doors. Just the dying hum of machinery and his wife. Suspended, breathing hard, staring at him with eyes that held something he couldn't name. Not fear. Not guilt. Something worse. Pity. Get her down. Ethan barked into the darkness. Two shadows emerged, his most trusted men, Jin and Hero, who'd been stationed outside the visible perimeter. They moved with practiced efficiency, releasing the restraints, catching Mia before her legs could buckle. She didn't thank them. She didn't look at them. Her gaze stayed locked on Ethan as they lowered her to the floor, and in that moment, he saw her the way he had 3 years ago, the night that changed everything. 3 years earlier. The wedding wasn't supposed to happen. Ethan Corleone had built his empire on 3 unbreakable rules. Trust no one, love nothing, leave no loose ends. At 32, he was Seoul's youngest crime lord, inheriting his father's syndicate after a coup so brutal it was still whispered about in back alleys and boardrooms alike. He didn't need a wife. He needed soldiers. Territory. Respect bought in blood. But then he'd walked into that art gallery on a rain-soaked November night. Not for culture, but because a rival had been using it to launder money, and he saw her. Mia. She stood in front of a painting of a burning house, her expression distant, haunted, like she was looking at a memory instead of canvas. Long black hair cascaded over a simple dress. No jewelry. No makeup. She didn't belong in that world of champagne and pretension. She looked like someone running from something. Ethan had been intrigued. He'd approached. Spoken. She turned those dark eyes on him and smiled. A smile that didn't reach her eyes, and said, "You don't look like you're here for the art." "I'm not." "Then why are you here?" He should have said business. Should have walked away. Instead, he'd told the truth. "I don't know anymore." Something shifted in her expression. Like a mask slipping for just a second. She studied him the way someone studies a puzzle with missing pieces, then said softly, "Maybe you're looking for something you didn't know you lost." That sentence haunted him for weeks. He found reasons to see her again. And again. Mia never asked about his work. Never flinched when his reputation preceded him. She listened when he spoke and stayed silent when he couldn't. She laughed at things that weren't funny and cried at films that were. She was real in a world where everything was performance. 6 months later, Ethan married her in a private ceremony with no family, no press, no witnesses except his inner circle. He'd expected resistance. Questions. Some logical hesitation from a woman entering a life of danger. Instead, Mia had looked at him across that altar and whispered, "I'll stay as long as you'll have me." Not forever. Not "I love you." As long as you'll have me. He should have questioned it then. Present. Mia's knees hit concrete. She caught herself with her palms, breathing hard, hair curtaining her face. Ethan crouched in front of her, his voice dropping to that tone. The one he used before violence. "What did you mean?" he asked quietly. "When you said I tried?" Mia lifted her head slowly. Her wrists were raw from the restraints, red lines blooming against pale skin. But her eyes were clear. "You want the truth, Ethan. I want to know who you've been talking to, who you're protecting, what you're hiding." A bitter laugh escaped her lips. Not cruel. Just defeated. "You're right," she whispered. "I've been hiding something since the day we met." Ethan's blood turned cold. There it was. The confession. The betrayal he'd been hunting. But instead of relief, all he felt was a hollow ache spreading through his chest. Because part of him, the part he'd buried under years of ruthlessness, had been hoping he was wrong. "Then tell me," he said, voice like gravel. "Tell me, and maybe I'll let you walk out of here." Mia stared at him for a long moment. Then she did something that shattered him more than any confession could. She smiled. Sad. Tender. Heartbroken. "You don't understand," she said softly. "I never wanted to walk away." Ethan's world. To understand what came next, you had to understand what Ethan Corleone was. He wasn't born into cruelty, he was forged by it. His father, Vincent Corleone, ruled Seoul's underworld with an iron fist and a paranoid mind. Every ally was a potential traitor. Every deal was a trap waiting to spring. Ethan grew up watching his father execute men at the dinner table, listening to screams in the basement while doing homework, learning that love was weakness and trust was suicide. When Ethan turned 18, his father gave him a choice: prove his loyalty by killing a captured rival, or be disowned. Ethan pulled the trigger without hesitation. Not because he wanted to, because survival meant becoming the monster before the monster ate you. By 25, he'd orchestrated his father's retirement, not through violence, but through cold strategy. He leveraged debts, turned allies, made Vincent Corleone irrelevant in his own empire. Then he rebuilt everything from the ground up, sharper, smarter, more ruthless. Ethan's reputation became legend. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. A look was enough. A silence could end careers. He controlled shipping routes, political figures, underground networks across 3 countries. Money flowed like water. Blood stayed invisible. But power didn't keep you warm at night. It didn't laugh at bad jokes or fall asleep against your shoulder or make you feel like maybe, you were more than the sum of your sins. Mia did. For 3 years, she was the only softness in his world. The only thing he protected more fiercely than territory. He'd killed men for looking at her wrong. Burned businesses that employed people who threatened her. Built a fortress around their home with guards, cameras, protocols. And still, doubt crept in. Because Ethan knew what he was. Knew what he'd done. Knew that women like Mia, kind, genuine, good, didn't choose men like him unless something was broken inside them too. Or unless they had no choice. Mia's silence. Jin and Hero stood back, hands near weapons, waiting for orders. Ethan's mind raced through scenarios. Affairs, espionage, debts, blackmail. Every possibility carried a different execution protocol. But Mia's next words obliterated them all. "I didn't choose you because I loved you," she said quietly. "I chose you because I was sent to." The warehouse seemed to tilt. Ethan's hand moved to his gun instinctively. Sent. By who? By the people who wanted to keep you alive. Who? Mia closed her eyes. When she opened them again, tears finally fell. Your mother. The world stopped. Ethan's mother had died when he was 7. Cancer, his father said. Quick and brutal. He barely remembered her, just fragments. A lullaby. Hands braiding his hair. The smell of jasmine. My mother's been dead for 25 years, Ethan said, voice deadly calm. No, Mia whispered. She's been hiding. From the Nakamura clan. He knew that name. Every syndicate leader in East Asia knew that name. They were ghosts, older than governments, more ruthless than cartels, operating in shadows so deep even people like Ethan couldn't touch them. His father never spoke about them. Ever. You're lying, Ethan said. But his voice cracked. I wish I was. Mia's tears came faster now. Your father killed someone he shouldn't have. A Nakamura heir. They swore a blood oath, every Corleone, down to the last generation. Your mother faked her death to protect you. And when she learned you were taking over the syndicate. Mia's voice broke. She sent me to watch you. To protect you. To make sure the Nakamura clan never found out you existed. Ethan staggered back like he'd been shot. 3 years, he whispered. 3 years, and you. I fell in love with you, Mia said desperately, standing on shaking legs. That part wasn't fake. The marriage was a lie, but everything after, every night, every moment, that was real. I chose you, Ethan. Every single day, I chose you. Ethan's gun was in his hand now. He didn't remember drawing it. Then why didn't you tell me? Because the Nakamura clan doesn't forgive. And if they knew you were Vincent's son. Her voice dropped to a broken whisper. They'd kill everyone you love. Including me. The gun trembled. So what changed? Ethan demanded. Why now? Why the phone calls? Why the... Because they found out. The words hung in the air like a death sentence. 2 weeks ago, Mia continued, voice hollow. They sent a message. They know who you are. They know about us. And they're coming. Ethan's mind raced. Every instinct screamed trap. But his heart, that traitorous, stupid heart, was screaming something else. She stayed. Even knowing they'd kill her. She stayed. How long? He asked hoarsely. Days. Maybe less. Ethan lowered the gun slowly. His hands were shaking. Something that hadn't happened since he was a boy. Where's my mother now? I don't know. She only contacted me once. The day before I met you. Everything else went through intermediaries. Dead drops. Encrypted messages. She sacrificed everything to keep you safe. Ethan holstered his weapon. Turned away. Pressed his palms against the cold concrete wall and tried to breathe through the fury, the betrayal, the grief that was tearing him apart. His entire life was a lie. His marriage was an operation. His mother was alive. And the woman he'd just tortured on a wheel had been protecting him the whole time. Why didn't you run? He asked without turning around. Mia's voice was soft. Broken. Certain. Because I love you. And running wouldn't have saved either of us. Ethan closed his eyes. For the first time in 15 years, a tear slid down his face. Ethan stood motionless for 30 seconds that felt like 30 years. Behind him, Mia's ragged breathing echoed through the warehouse. Jin and Hero remained frozen, hands near their weapons, caught between loyalty and confusion. They'd followed Ethan into war zones, executions, impossible situations, but they'd never seen him like this. Vulnerable. Shattered. Human. When Ethan finally turned around, his face had reset into that mask of cold control. But his eyes, those dark, calculating eyes, betrayed everything. Jin. Hero. Out. Boss. Out. They hesitated only a moment before disappearing through the steel door, leaving Ethan and Mia alone in the cavernous space. The wheel cast long shadows across concrete. Blood hadn't been spilled tonight, but something far more vital had been torn open. Trust. Ethan crossed the distance between them slowly, deliberately. Mia didn't flinch, didn't retreat. She stood there with her wrists still raw, tears still wet on her cheeks, and met his gaze with that same impossible combination of guilt and devotion. Show me, Ethan said quietly. Show you what? Proof. Messages. Something that proves you're not just a very good liar trying to survive. Mia nodded slowly, reached into her pocket, then froze when Ethan's hand snapped to his gun. Easy, she whispered. Just my phone. She withdrew it carefully, unlocked it, pulled up an encrypted messaging app Ethan recognized immediately, the kind intelligence agencies used. The kind that erased itself if tampered with. She handed it to him. Ethan scrolled through messages that made his blood run cold. Unknown. Target confirmed. Vincent Corleone's son alive. Sole operations. Unknown. Timeline accelerated. Nakamura Council unanimous. Blood oath must be honored. Unknown. The woman with him, she's compromised. Loose end. MIA, she's not a threat. She doesn't know anything. Unknown. Irrelevant. All attachments will be severed. The messages went back 2 weeks. Before that, nothing. Like Mia said, everything had been dead drops and intermediaries until the threat became imminent. But it was the final message that stopped Ethan's heart. Unknown. Extraction window closes 72 hours. Come alone or everyone dies. The timestamp was from 6 hours ago. They gave you an out, Ethan said, voice dangerously soft. They told you to leave me. Yes. Why didn't you take it? Mia's laugh was bitter. Broken. Because I know how this works. Come alone means they execute me for the betrayal of falling in love with their target. They were never offering mercy. They were offering me the choice of how I die. Alone in some warehouse, or here with you when they come for us both. Ethan's jaw clenched. So you chose here. I chose you. Something cracked in Ethan's chest. He wanted to rage, to break things, to hurt her the way she'd hurt him. But underneath all that fury was a truth he couldn't ignore. She'd had 72 hours to run. Instead, she'd stayed, knowing what was coming, knowing he might kill her himself when he found out. And she'd stayed. How many are coming? Ethan asked, his mind already shifting into tactical mode. I don't know. The Nakamura clan doesn't operate like your syndicates. I know what they are. Ethan cut her off. Ghosts. Assassins. Old world honor and new world brutality. My father used to have nightmares about them. He handed back her phone. Started pacing. Every instinct screamed at him to move, to fortify, to strike first, to disappear. But running from the Nakamura clan was like running from your own shadow. It followed you until it swallowed you whole. There has to be a way to negotiate, Ethan said. Blood feuds can be settled. Paid off. Ended. Not this one. Mia's voice was hollow. Your father didn't just kill a Nakamura heir. He desecrated the body. Burned their family temple. It wasn't business. It was a message. The kind of insult that doesn't get forgiven in blood or money. Then why didn't they come for him years ago? Because your mother made a deal. Ethan stopped pacing. What deal? Mia's eyes glistened with fresh tears. Her life for yours. She gave herself to them, not to kill, but to serve. She's been working for the Nakamura clan for 25 years, feeding them intelligence, undermining rival families, becoming indispensable. The deal was that as long as she served loyally, they'd leave you alone. The floor seemed to drop out from under Ethan's feet. My mother is an asset for the people who want me dead. She's the reason you're not dead, Mia said desperately. She sacrificed everything. Her name, her son, her life. She became a ghost so you could live. Ethan's fists clenched so hard his knuckles went white. And you? What were you supposed to do? Watch you. Report your movements. Make sure you didn't stumble into Nakamura territory or draw their attention. Keep you safe without you ever knowing you needed protecting. By marrying me. That part. Mia's voice broke. That part wasn't the plan. I was supposed to stay close, but distant. An informant. A shadow. But then you, she wiped her eyes roughly. You made me laugh. You trusted me. You let me see the parts of you that weren't the monster everyone feared. And I fell in love with a man who wasn't supposed to exist. Ethan's breath came hard and fast. So what changed? Why are they coming now? Because 2 weeks ago, someone inside the Nakamura Council saw surveillance footage of us. Together. Happy. Mia's voice dropped to a whisper. They realized I wasn't just protecting you anymore. I was choosing you. And that broke the terms of your mother's deal. What terms? No emotional attachments. No personal stakes. If I fell in love with you, if I became someone who'd die for you instead of just monitor you, then I was compromised. And compromised assets get eliminated along with their targets. The pieces fell into place like shards of broken glass. His mother's sacrifice. Mia's mission. The surveillance. The messages. The impossible choice. You should have told me, Ethan said, his voice raw. I know. I could have protected you. No. Mia stepped closer, close enough that he could see every emotion written across her face. You couldn't have. The Nakamura clan doesn't lose, Ethan. They don't negotiate. They don't forgive. The only reason your mother is still alive is because she made herself more valuable to them than revenge. But me. She laughed bitterly. I'm just the woman foolish enough to fall in love with her assignment. Ethan reached out slowly, not with violence, but with something far more dangerous. Tenderness. His hand cupped her face, thumb brushing away tears, and for a moment they stood there in the wreckage of their lies and truths. Two people who'd found something real in the most impossible circumstances. I'm not losing you, Ethan said quietly. I don't care who they are. I don't care about blood oaths or honor codes or... The steel door exploded inward, not from a breach. From Jin stumbling through it, blood pouring from a gash across his forehead, gun drawn and shaking. "Boss," he gasped. "They are here." Ethan's entire body went rigid. "How many?" We didn't see them until, heroes down, maybe dead, I don't." A sound cut through the warehouse. Soft, rhythmic, clapping, slow, mocking applause echoing from the darkness beyond the shattered door. Mia's face went white. "No, not yet. The timeline." "Timelines are for people who play fair," a voice called out. Female. Accented. Amused. A figure stepped into the light. She was small, barely 5'3", dressed in a tailored black suit that looked more boardroom than battlefield. Short hair framed a face that could have been anywhere from 30 to 50. Beautiful in that ageless way some Asian women carried like a weapon. But it was her eyes that made Ethan's blood freeze. Cold. Ancient. Utterly devoid of mercy. "Ethan Corleone," the woman said, smiling. "You have your father's face. I'm glad. It will make killing you so much more satisfying." Ethan's gun was already drawn. "Who are you?" "Ah. Where are my manners?" The woman tilted her head. "I am Keiko Nakamura, council elder. And I'm here to collect on a debt 25 years overdue." Behind her, shadows moved. 5, no, 6, figures materialized from the darkness, all armed, all moving with the fluid precision of trained killers. Mia grabbed Ethan's arm. "We have to run. Now. We can't." "No running," Keiko interrupted cheerfully. "We've had this place surrounded for 2 hours. The moment your dear wife turned down our extraction offer, we knew exactly where she'd be." Her smile widened. "Honestly, Mia, I expected better from one of Claire's daughters. But love makes us all stupid, doesn't it?" Ethan's mind caught on one word. Claire's daughter. Mia's grip tightened. "Ethan. Your mother's real name," Keiko said, clearly enjoying this, "is Claire Nakamura. My cousin. The woman who murdered my brother to save your worthless father, then spent 25 years trying to atone for it." She laughed. "And you, dear Mia, were sent to babysit the bastard son of a monster, only to fall in love with him like some tragic romance novel." Ethan's world tilted again. "You." He looked at Mia. "Your family?" Your mother's niece," Mia whispered, tears streaming down her face. "Your cousin. I'm sorry. I couldn't. There was no way to tell you that wouldn't." "Enough." Keiko's voice cracked like a whip. "This has been entertaining, but I have a schedule to keep. Here's what happens next. Ethan Corleone, you die. Quickly, because I'm not a sadist. Mia, you die slowly, because you betrayed your blood for a man who was never supposed to matter." She drew a sleek black pistol. "Any last words?" Ethan stepped in front of Mia. Not thinking, just moving, putting himself between her and the gun with the same instinct that had kept him alive his entire life. The instinct to protect what mattered, consequences be damned. "Kill me," Ethan said quietly. "Honor your blood oath. But let her go." Keiko laughed. "How noble. How? I'll take her place." Everyone froze. Those words hadn't come from Ethan. They'd come from the shadows behind Keiko's death squad. And the voice, that voice, made Ethan's knees nearly buckle. Because he knew that voice. From lullabies. From fragments of memory 25 years buried. A woman stepped into the light, older now, gray threading through dark hair, face lined with decades of secrets and sacrifice. But her eyes, those eyes were the same ones Ethan saw in the mirror. His mother, Claire Nakamura. Alive. "Hello, Ethan," she said softly, tears already falling. "I'm sorry I couldn't stay dead." Time fractured. Ethan couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. Couldn't process the impossible woman standing 10 feet away wearing the face he'd buried in his memory alongside guilt and grief and a child's desperate questions about why good people died. "Mom." The word came out broken. Small. The voice of a 7-year-old boy who'd watched his father burn his mother's clothes and never speak her name again. Claire's composure cracked. Just for a second. Just long enough for Ethan to see the mother underneath the operative, the woman underneath the ghost. "I'm here," she whispered. "I'm so sorry, but I'm here." Keiko's expression shifted from amusement to cold fury. "Claire, you were ordered to stay away. This doesn't concern you anymore." "He's my son." Claire's voice hardened. "It will always concern me. Your son is a dead man." The council voted. The blood oath. "I'm invoking Kanzanene Aiknai." Silence crashed through the warehouse like a physical force. Even Keiko's killers shifted uncomfortably. Mia made a sound like she'd been punched. Ethan had no idea what the words meant, but their weight pressed down on everyone like a sentence. "You can't," Keiko hissed. "That ritual hasn't been used in 80 years. I know. I've read the codes." Claire stepped forward, placing herself between the death squad and her son. The same instinct Ethan had just followed for Mia, translated across 25 years of absence. Complete sacrifice. "I offer my life, my service, my name to the Nakamura clan in exchange for his. Not as debt. Not as transaction. As blood atonement." "Claire," Mia's voice broke. "You can't. That ritual kills you. Slowly. They'll—" "I know what they'll do," Claire said quietly, never taking her eyes off Keiko. "I've known for 25 years that this day would come. The only question was whether I'd be strong enough when it did." Ethan found his voice. "No. I don't know what that is. But—" "Kanzanene Aiknai means total sacrifice," Mia said urgently, grabbing his arm. "She's offering to die in your place, but not quickly. She'll be executed over months. Years. Publicly. Every Nakamura clan member gets to—" Her voice failed. "To take their piece," Claire finished calmly. "It's the highest form of atonement in our culture. Reserved for crimes so severe that only prolonged suffering can balance the scales." "That's insane," Ethan said. "I'm not letting you." "You don't have a choice." Claire finally looked at him, really looked at him, and Ethan saw everything she'd given up written in those eyes. "I made a deal 25 years ago to keep you alive. This is the final payment." "The council won't accept it," Keiko said, but her voice wavered. "You're not. I'm the one who killed your brother." Claire's voice went sharp as broken glass. "Not Vincent. He pulled the trigger, but I gave him the gun. I gave him the location. I let it happen because I was in love with a man who turned out to be a monster, and by the time I realized what he was, it was too late." She paused. "Your brother died because of my choices. Doesn't that deserve the harshest punishment?" Keiko's hand trembled on her weapon. "Mom, stop," Ethan said desperately. "I'll fight them. You'll die in 3 minutes," Claire said matter-of-factly. "Then Mia dies. Then your entire syndicate gets dismantled as a message. That's how this ends if I don't intervene. Or," Keiko said slowly, clearly thinking through implications, "you both die. Mother and son. The bloodline ends. The debt is paid. My brother's spirit rests." "Your brother's spirit doesn't give a damn about rest," Claire shot back. "He cared about honor. About family. About doing the right thing even when it cost everything." Her voice softened. "He would have hated what you've become, Keiko. This vendetta has poisoned you. Don't speak about him like you knew him." "I did know him. Better than you, apparently. He told me once that revenge was just grief with a target. And grief doesn't end when you hit the target. It just finds a new one." For a moment, Keiko looked uncertain. Young. Like the girl she must have been before her brother died and revenge became her religion. Then the moment passed. "The council will decide," Keiko said coldly. "We'll take you all into custody until—" "No." Mia stepped forward. "There's another option." Everyone turned to look at her. Ethan's heart lurched because he knew that expression. The same one she'd worn on the wheel right before saying "I tried." The expression of someone who'd already made an impossible choice. "What option?" Claire asked carefully. "Me." Mia's voice was steady despite the tears. "I invoke Shinzoku no Daiko. Blood substitution. I'm family. I'm already compromised. And she looked at Ethan, and the love in her eyes nearly destroyed him. I'm the reason they came early. If I'd just left when they told me to, none of this would be happening. No, Ethan said immediately. Absolutely not. I don't care what. It's valid, Keiko said, interest sparking in her cold eyes. A blood relative offering themselves in place of the condemned. It's old law, but... She smiled slowly. The council might find it poetic. The girl sent to protect him instead chooses to die for him. She's not dying for me, Ethan snarled. Nobody is dying for me. You'll what? Mia turned to face him fully. Fight? Run? You can't beat them, Ethan. The Nakamura clan doesn't lose. But if I do this, if I take your mother's place in the ritual, then you get to live. Your mother gets to live. The debt is paid. By torturing you to death over months. Ethan's voice cracked. That's not a solution, that's love. Mia reached up, cupping his face the way he'd done for her an hour ago in this same warehouse when the world had been different. Smaller. Less cruel. You asked me once why I stayed. This is why. Because some people are worth dying for. And you, Ethan Corleone, are worth everything. Mia. I love you, she whispered. I loved you the moment you told me you were looking for something you didn't know you'd lost. I loved you through every lie I told and every truth I hid. And I'll love you through whatever comes next. She kissed him. Soft. Desperate. Goodbye. When she pulled back, Ethan tasted salt. Her tears, his tears, he couldn't tell anymore. Keiko, Mia said, turning back to the elder. I formally invoke Shinzoku no Daiko. Do you accept? Keiko studied her for a long moment, then nodded slowly. The council will be pleased. A love story ending in sacrifice. Very traditional. She gestured to her team. Take her. No. Ethan lunged forward. 3 things happened simultaneously. Jin, still bleeding near the door, raised his gun and fired, not at Keiko, but at the lights, plunging the warehouse into chaos. Claire grabbed Ethan with surprising strength, dragging him backward toward a service exit he hadn't noticed. And Mia screamed, not in pain, but in rage, "Run, you idiot!" Gunfire erupted. Muzzle flashes lit the darkness like lightning. Ethan fought against his mother's grip, fought to get back to Mia. But Claire was stronger than she looked and more desperate than he'd ever been. She bought you time, Claire hissed in his ear. Don't waste it. I'm not leaving her. Yes, you are. Because if you die here, her sacrifice means nothing. They burst through the service exit into a narrow alley. Rain had started falling. Cold, bitter, soul rain that smelled like exhaust and regret. Behind them, the sounds of fighting continued, but muffled now, distant. Claire didn't slow down. She dragged Ethan through alleys he didn't recognize, taking turns that seemed random but clearly weren't, moving with the efficiency of someone who'd spent 25 years running from and toward danger in equal measure. Finally, she shoved him into an abandoned building, some kind of factory, long dead, filled with rusted machinery and broken windows. Ethan collapsed against a wall, chest heaving, mind fracturing. We have to go back, he gasped. We have to. We have to think, Claire interrupted. She was barely winded. Rushing back gets you killed and her sacrifice wasted. She's not sacrificing herself. Ethan roared. I'm not letting her. You don't have a choice. Neither of us do. Claire's composure finally shattered. Do you think this is what I wanted? Do you think I wanted to miss your entire life, to watch you from shadows, to know you were growing up thinking I abandoned you? Tears poured down her face. I died so you could live, Ethan. Every day for 25 years, I died. And now Mia's doing the same thing because she loves you the way I loved you, enough to give up everything. Ethan sank to the floor. All the walls he'd built, all the control, the coldness, the monster he'd become to survive his father's world, crumbled. He put his head in his hands and broke. Not crying. Shattering. Claire knelt beside him, hesitated, then pulled him into an embrace he hadn't felt since he was 7 years old. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I'm so sorry." They stayed like that for a long time. Rain fell outside. Sirens wailed in the distance. Someone had called the police about the gunfight, though they'd arrived far too late to matter. Finally, Ethan pulled back. His eyes were red but clear. "There has to be a way to save her." "There isn't." "There's always a way." Claire studied her son. This man she'd missed becoming. This stranger who wore her eyes and his father's ruthlessness and something new. Something that looked almost like hope. Even if there was, she said carefully, it would require doing something the Nakamura clan would consider an unforgivable insult. The kind that gets everyone you've ever known killed. "Tell me. Ethan. Tell me." Claire took a shaky breath. "There's one person the Nakamura clan answers to. One authority they can't refuse." "Who?" "The Oyaban. The original patriarch. His old, ancient lives in isolation in the mountains north of Hokkaido. Hasn't intervened in clan business in 40 years. She paused. "But he created the laws, including Kanzanene Aikanai and Shinzoku no Daiko. If anyone can overturn Mia's sacrifice, it's him. Then we go to him." "It's not that simple. First, we'd have to find him. His location is a secret guarded by blood oaths. Second, we'd have to survive the journey through Nakamura territory while being actively hunted. Third," Claire's voice dropped. "Third, we'd have to convince a man who hasn't cared about mercy in decades to save the life of a traitor." "What are his terms?" "I don't know. No one who's petitioned him has ever come back." Ethan stood. His legs shook but held. "Then I'll be the first." "Ethan, you can't. Watch me." There was something in his voice that stopped Claire's protest. The same thing that had built an empire by 32. The same thing that had made men fear him with just a look. But underneath it was something new. Something that hadn't existed before tonight. Love worth dying for. "If I do this," Ethan said quietly, "if I go after the Oyaban, the Nakamura clan will send everything they have to stop me. They'll burn my syndicate to the ground. Kill everyone I know. Turn Seoul into a war zone. Yes. And Mia. They'll keep her alive for the ritual. It's sacred to them. They won't rush it." Claire's voice was gentle. "You'd have maybe 2 weeks before they start. If you can reach the Oyaban and convince him in that time. Then she lives. Maybe. Or you both die." Ethan looked at his mother. This woman who'd given up everything for him. This ghost who'd loved him from shadows for 25 years. "Teach me," he said. "Teach you what?" "Everything. How to move like you. Think like you. Survive like you." His voice hardened. "You've been playing their game for decades. Now teach me how to win it." Claire stared at her son. Then, slowly, she smiled. It was sad and fierce and proud all at once. "You're not your father," she said softly. "No, I'm not. You're better." Something in Ethan's chest loosened. Just a fraction. Just enough to breathe. "I need to make some calls," he said. "People I trust. Resources I can mobilize. Your syndicate isn't just soldiers and violence." Ethan pulled out his phone, miraculously intact despite everything. "I've spent 10 years building networks across Asia. Legitimate businesses, political connections, intelligence assets." He looked up. "If we're going to war with the most dangerous clan in the East, I'm going to war smart." Claire's smile widened. "Like I said, better than your father." Ethan started dialing. His first call was to Marcus, his second-in-command, the only person besides Jin and Hiro who knew about tonight's plan. The phone rang once. "Boss." Marcus's voice was tense. "Jin just called. He said." Everything he said was true. "I need you to activate Protocol Phoenix. Right now." Silence. Then, "That's the Scorched Earth Protocol. You sure?" "I'm sure. Lock down all assets. Move everyone to safe houses. Assume we're at war with an enemy that makes our usual rivals look like children. Who are we fighting? The Nakamura clan. More silence. Then Marcus laughed, not with humor, but with the kind of hysteria that comes from hearing your death sentence. Boss, that's suicide. Probably. Do it anyway. Yes, sir. Ethan hung up, made 6 more calls in rapid succession. Each one the same message. Hide. Protect. Prepare for war. When he finished, Claire was watching him with something like wonder. You really built something, didn't you? She said softly. I built what I thought would keep me safe. Ethan pocketed his phone. Turns out I built what might keep her safe instead. And if it's not enough, then I die trying. He met his mother's eyes. I've spent my whole life being afraid, of my father, of weakness, of caring too much. I'm done being afraid. Claire nodded slowly. Then we leave tonight. I know someone who might know how to find the Oyaban. But Ethan. She gripped his shoulder. Once we start this, there's no going back. The Nakamura clan will hunt us until we're dead or they are. Good. Good. Ethan's smile was sharp, cold. The smile of the monster his father had created and the man Mia had loved. I've always performed better with clear stakes. Before we continue, I know you're feeling it right now. That tension, that need to know what happens next. Drop a comment and tell me. Do you think Ethan can save Mia? Or is this love story doomed? Your theories keep me going, and I read every single one. And if you haven't subscribed yet, do it now. Because this story is about to go places you won't see coming. And I promise you don't want to miss what happens when Ethan Corleone goes to war with the most dangerous family in Asia. Hit that subscribe button. You'll thank me later. Fire. The safe house was a lie wrapped in concrete. From the outside, it looked like every other dilapidated apartment building in Seoul's industrial district. Crumbling facade, broken windows, the kind of place even homeless people avoided. Inside, it was a fortress. Reinforced walls. Surveillance systems. Weapons caches hidden in false panels. Escape routes through saws and rooftops. Claire had maintained it for 15 years. One of a dozen locations she rotated through to stay ahead of anyone tracking her. How many of these do you have? Ethan asked, watching his mother check security feeds on a wall of monitors. Enough. Claire didn't elaborate. We can stay here for 12 hours. After that, the Nakamura clan's sweep patterns will bring them within a mile, and even my security won't hold. 12 hours to plan an impossible rescue. Ethan stood in front of a map of East Asia she'd spread across a table. Red marks indicated known Nakamura territories. Blue marks showed neutral zones. Black marks. What are the black marks? He asked. Places where people went looking for the Oyaban and never came back. Claire pointed to a cluster in northern Japan. Most of them are here. Hokkaido mountains. Some of the most remote terrain in the country. So we know the general area. General isn't good enough. Those mountains span hundreds of miles. Without a specific location, we'd be searching until we starved or froze. Whichever came first. Ethan studied the map. You said you know someone who might know how to find him. Yes. Who? Claire's jaw tightened. Someone I hoped I'd never have to contact again. Mom. His name is Tokishi Miyagi. He used to be Nakamura clan, high-ranking, before he. She trailed off. Before he what? Before he fell in love with the wrong woman and tried to run. The clan caught him. Tortured him. Let him live as a warning. Claire's voice went flat. He knows things he shouldn't. Secrets about the clan structure. Including, supposedly, how to reach the Oyaban. Where is he now? Busan. Running a restaurant that's really a front for information brokering. She finally looked at Ethan. He's also insane. The torture broke something in him. Half the time he speaks in riddles. The other half, he tries to kill anyone who reminds him of his past. Sounds delightful. Ethan, I'm serious. This man is dangerous. Unstable. Even if we get information from him, it might be a trap. Then we'll be careful. Ethan checked his phone. 3 messages from Marcus confirming safe houses were secured. 1 message from a contact in Japanese intelligence. Nothing from Jin. His chest tightened. Jin might be dead. Hiro almost certainly was. And Mia. Mia was alive. She had to be. The ritual kept her alive. For now. We leave in 2 hours, Ethan said. Can you get us to Busan without the clan noticing? Maybe. I have a contact who runs cargo ships. Owes me a favor. Claire started gathering supplies, passports, weapons, cash in multiple currencies. But Ethan, you need to understand something. Even if we find the Oyaban, even if he agrees to see us, there's a price. There's always a price with these old families. What kind of price? The kind that changes you. She stopped, holding a passport that must have been one of a dozen fake identities she'd maintained. When I made my deal 25 years ago, I thought I was just offering my service. My time. I didn't realize I was offering my soul. Everything that made me who I was, mother, wife, person, I had to bury it. Become something else. Someone else. Are you saying I shouldn't try? I'm saying be sure. Claire's eyes were haunted. Because once you walk this path, you don't get to go back. You don't get to be the man you were. You become what they need you to be. And sometimes. Her voice broke. Sometimes that means becoming the thing you hate most. Ethan thought about Mia. About the way she'd looked at him on that wheel. Not with fear, but with love. About her voice saying I chose you even when choosing him meant dying. About 3 years of laughter and silence and moments that felt like home in a life that had never had one. I'm sure, he said quietly. Claire nodded. Then we go. Busan, 18 hours later. The restaurant was called Quiet Waters, which was either ironic or threatening depending on how you looked at it. It sat in Busan's old port district, wedged between a fish market and a warehouse that shipped car parts. The kind of place you only found if you were looking for it, or if you were the kind of person who needed to find places like it. Ethan and Claire approached just after midnight. Let me do the talking, Claire said. Takeshi and I have history. What kind of history? The kind where he either helps us or kills us. 50-50 odds. Great. They pushed through the door. Inside, the restaurant was empty except for one man sitting at a corner table, eating noodles with mechanical precision. Takeshi Miyagi was small, thin, maybe 60 years old with gray hair tied back in a ponytail. His hands were scarred, burn marks, knife marks, the kind of damage that came from professionals who knew how to hurt without killing. He didn't look up when they entered. We're closed, he said in Japanese. I know, Claire replied in the same language. I'm not here to eat. Takeshi's chopsticks paused. That voice. I know that voice. Hello, Takeshi. He looked up slowly. When he saw Claire, something flickered across his face. Recognition. Maybe fear. Maybe something worse. Claire Nakamura, he said softly. The ghost who walks. I heard you were dead. I heard the same about you. I am dead. Takeshi smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. I'm just too stupid to stop moving. He looked at Ethan. Studied him with the intensity of someone reading a death sentence. And this is the son. Vincent's boy. The one who started all of this. Takeshi set down his chopsticks. You look like your father. That's unfortunate. I need information, Ethan said, switching to Korean. Everyone needs information. Information is easy. Truth is expensive. Takeshi stood. He moved wrong. Like his body didn't quite fit together anymore. What truth are you buying tonight? How to find the Oyaban. The temperature in the room dropped. Takeshi laughed. Not a pleasant sound. You don't find the Oyaban. The Oyaban finds you. Usually right before you die. There has to be a way. There is. It's called death. Takeshi walked to the kitchen door. Go home, boy. Let your woman die. It's kinder than what you're planning. I'm not letting her die. Then you're a fool. Probably. Takeshi paused. Looked back. You love her? This woman? Yes. Enough to trade your life for hers? Yes. Enough to become what you hate? Ethan hesitated, but only for a second. Yes. Takeshi studied him for a long moment, then sighed. Love makes monsters of us all, he said quietly. Come. I'll tell you what you want to know. But first. He gestured to the kitchen. We cook. What? You heard me. We cook. I think better with my hands busy. And if you can't follow simple instructions in a kitchen, you'll never survive what comes next. It was absurd. But Ethan followed him anyway. The kitchen. They made ramen from scratch. Not instant noodles, real ramen. Kneading dough, rolling it thin, cutting precise strips while Takeshi prepared a broth that smelled like memory and regret. My wife taught me this, Takeshi said as he worked. Before the clan found out about us. Before they made me watch as he stopped. Breathed. Continued. Cooking was her love language. Every meal was an apology for loving a man who couldn't give her a normal life. What happened to her? Ethan asked quietly. She's alive. Somewhere safe. Somewhere I can never go. Takeshi's knife moved faster. That was my price. My punishment. They let her live, but only if I never saw her again. 30 years I've kept that promise. 30 years of dying slowly. I'm sorry. Don't be. I chose love over loyalty. I'd choose it again. He looked at Ethan. The question is, will you? That's why I'm here. No. Takeshi shook his head. You're here because you think love is enough. It's not. The Nakamura clan doesn't care about love. They care about order. Balance. The old ways. Your father disrupted that balance. Your existence disrupts it further. And your woman, he paused. Your woman broke the cardinal rule. She chose heart over honor. So they kill her for falling in love. They kill her for being human. Takeshi tasted the broth. Added salt. The Nakamura clan isn't like your syndicate. It's not about money or power. It's about bloodlines stretching back 1,000 years. Codes written in blood. Traditions that matter more than lives. Then how do I fight them? You don't fight them. You become something they respect more than tradition. Which is? A force of nature. The noodles were ready. Takeshi assembled 3 bowls with ritual precision. Broth, noodles, toppings arranged just so. He placed one in front of Ethan, one in front of Claire, kept one for himself. Eat first, he said. Then I tell you how to find the Oyaban. Then you leave and I go back to dying slowly. They ate in silence. The ramen was perfect. Every flavor balanced. It tasted like love translated into food, and Ethan understood why Takeshi's wife had used cooking as her apology. When they finished, Takeshi cleared the bowls and returned with a worn notebook. The Oyaban doesn't live in the mountains, he said. That's what they want you to believe. The black marks on your map? Those are decoys. Places where the clan sends treasure hunters to disappear. Claire leaned forward. Then where is he? Kyoto. Has been for 40 years. Living in plain sight as a tea master. Takeshi opened the notebook, showing a hand-drawn map. There's a tea house in the Gion district. Looks like a tourist trap. But 3 times a year, the Oyaban sees petitioners. You need to be there on the right day, at the right time, with the right offering. What offering? Truth. Takeshi smiled grimly. Not what you think is true. Not what you want to be true. What you know is true in your bones, even if it destroys you. That's cryptic. That's the point. The Oyaban doesn't want supplicants. He wants people willing to shatter themselves for what they love. Takeshi closed the notebook. The next petitioner day is in 4 days. If you can reach Kyoto, find the tea house, and survive the test, he might listen. Might. The Oyaban is ancient. Unpredictable. Half the people who reach him never leave. The other half leave changed in ways that make them wish they'd died. Takashi met Ethan's eyes. Are you prepared for that? I don't have a choice. There's always a choice. The question is whether you can live with the consequences. Ethan stood. Thank you. Don't thank me. You'll hate me for this before the end. Takashi handed him the notebook. One more thing. When you see the Oyaban, don't lie. Don't embellish. Don't try to manipulate. He sees through everything. The only weapon you have is absolute honesty. I can do that. Can you? Even if the truth condemns you? Even if it means admitting you're exactly like your father? Ethan's jaw clenched. I'm nothing like my father. Then prove it. Takashi turned away. Now go, before I change my mind and kill you myself. Outside, 20 minutes later, rain fell again. Always rain in this story. Ethan and Claire hurried through dark streets toward the docks where their transport waited. Behind them, the restaurant's lights went dark. He's right, Claire said as they walked. About the truth. The Oyaban will see through any deception. I know. Ethan, there are things about your father. About what I did. Things I've never told you. Then tell me now. Claire stopped. What if the truth makes you hate me? I could never hate you. You say that now. She looked away. But you don't know what I did to survive. What I became. Mom. I killed for them. The words tumbled out like a confession. Not just once. Dozens of times. The Nakamura clan used me as an assassin. Every death was to protect you. But that doesn't change what I am. I'm not a victim, Ethan. I'm a monster who made a deal and honored it with blood. Ethan processed this. Did you have a choice? There's always a choice. No, there's not. He grabbed her shoulders gently. You did what you had to do to save your son. That doesn't make you a monster. It makes you a mother. The Oyaban won't see it that way. Then we'll make him see it that way. It's not that simple. A sound cut through the rain. Sharp. Metallic. Click. The sound of a gun being cocked. No, a voice said from the shadows. It really isn't. 5 figures stepped into the light. Not Nakamura soldiers. These were different. Professional. Military precision. The leader was a woman in her 40s, wearing tactical gear and an expression of absolute certainty. She pointed her weapon directly at Claire. Claire Nakamura, the woman said. You're under arrest for crimes against the Republic of Korea, including assassination, terrorism, and treason. Who are you? Ethan demanded. National Intelligence Service. The woman showed a badge. Your mother has been on our most wanted list for 20 years. We've been tracking her through the Busan Port Authority. You just let us write to her. Ethan's mind raced. This wasn't the Nakamura clan. This was something worse. Legitimate authority. The kind you couldn't fight or bribe away easily. Let her go, Ethan said. She's with me. I'll take responsibility. You. The woman laughed. You're Ethan Corleone, Seoul's crime lord. You think we don't know who you are? She gestured to her team. You're both coming with us. We don't have time for this, Claire said urgently. There's a woman who's going to die if we don't. Not our problem. It will be when the Nakamura clan turns Busan into a war zone looking for us, Ethan said coldly. You have no idea what you're stepping into. Then enlighten me. At headquarters. The agents moved to restrain them. Ethan's hand moved toward his concealed weapon, then froze as Claire grabbed his wrist. Don't, she whispered. Killing government agents makes this worse. It's already worse. Trust me. Before Ethan could respond, the world exploded. Not literally, but close. A black van crashed through the barricade at the end of the street, headlights blazing, engine screaming. It slammed into the agent's vehicle with enough force to send it spinning. Doors burst open. Jin stumbled out, blooded, bandaged, but alive and furious. Boss, he shouted. Get in. Behind him, 3 more of Ethan's men provided covering fire. Not lethal shots, warning shots, forcing the agents to take cover without casualties. Protocol Phoenix includes extraction teams, Jin said quickly. I've had eyes on you since Busan Port. Figured you'd need backup. The NIS agents were recovering. More vehicles would be coming. Move. Claire grabbed Ethan, dragging him toward the van. They piled in. Jin floored it, tires screaming, careening through narrow streets. With the kind of reckless precision that came from years of running from danger. Where are we going? Ethan asked. Airport. Private charter. We're wheels up in 40 minutes or the whole plan falls apart. What about the government? They'll. Let me worry about that, Jin interrupted. He looked worse than Ethan had ever seen him. Pale, shaking, held together by adrenaline and stubbornness. You just focus on saving her. Ethan nodded. Looked at his mother, who was checking a weapons case with practiced efficiency. 4 days, he said. We have 4 days to reach Kyoto, find the tea house, and convince a man who hasn't cared about mercy in 40 years to overturn a blood oath. Impossible, Claire said. Good thing I specialize in impossible. The van raced toward the airport. Behind them, sirens wailed. Ahead, the clock counted down. And in Seoul, in a Nakamura compound hidden behind legitimate business facades, Mia Skywalker sat in a cell and tried not to think about the fact that in 2 weeks, they'd start the ritual that would kill her slowly. She thought about Ethan instead. About the way he'd looked at her in that warehouse. Angry and betrayed and still, somehow, in love. About the man who'd spent 3 years being softer than his reputation, kinder than his history, more human than his world allowed. She hoped he was running. She hoped he was safe. She hoped he'd forget about her and live. Even though she knew, the way you know things in your bones that don't need proof, that Ethan Corleone would burn the world down before he let her go. And that was exactly what terrified her. The private charter lifted off from Busan at 3:47 a.m., 11 minutes before military jets received orders to ground all flights. Ethan watched Korea disappear beneath clouds and tried not to think about everything that could go wrong. It was a long list, getting longer by the minute. Jin was slumped in a seat, finally letting medics from Ethan's team treat his wounds. Turned out he'd taken a bullet in the shoulder and kept fighting for 3 hours before going to extract them. The kind of loyalty that would have made Ethan emotional if he had any emotions left to spare. Claire sat across from him, staring at Tokish's notebook like it contained nuclear codes. You should rest, Ethan said. I'll rest when you're safe. I'm 32. You'll always be 7 years old to me. She looked up, and for a moment Ethan saw the mother she'd been before everything broke. I missed everything. Your first day of school. Your graduation. Your first, she stopped. My first kill, Ethan finished quietly. I was 19. Dad made me execute a traitor. Said it was my initiation. Claire's face went pale. Ethan. I think about that man sometimes. He had a family. Kids. He was embezzling, yeah, but he wasn't violent. Just desperate. Ethan looked at his hands. I put a bullet in his head because my father told me to. Because I was afraid of what would happen if I didn't. Because that's what Corleones do. You're not your father. How do you know? You weren't there. The words came out harsher than he intended. Claire flinched like he'd slapped her. I'm sorry, Ethan said immediately. I didn't mean. You did. And you're right. Claire's voice was steady despite the tears. I wasn't there. I chose to protect you from a distance and missed protecting you from becoming what you hate. That's on me. You saved my life. But at what cost? They sat in silence as the plane crossed into Japanese airspace. Outside, dawn was breaking, pink and gold and beautiful in a way that felt wrong when everything else was falling apart. Ethan's phone buzzed. A message from Marcus. Government raids on 3 safe houses. They're using your mother's charges to justify warrants. We're holding, but it's getting messy. Then another message. Nakamura clan made contact. They're offering a deal. Ethan's blood went cold. What deal? He called Marcus directly. What did they say? They sent an envoy. Woman named Keiko. She said if you turn yourself in within 48 hours, they'll commute Mia's sentence. Marcus paused. She'll die quickly instead of slowly. That's their version of mercy. That's not mercy. That's a trap. I know. But boss, we're losing ground. The government's turning up heat, the Nakamura clan is moving assets into Seoul, and our allies are getting nervous. The syndicate can't sustain this much longer. How long? Week. Maybe 2 if we're lucky. Then hold for 2 weeks. Boss. 2 weeks, Marcus. I'll either have Mia back by then, or none of this will matter anyway. Understood. Ethan hung up, looked at his mother. They're collapsing everything I built, he said quietly. The syndicate. The businesses. The network. Everything my father left me. Everything I expanded. Gone. Is it worth it? Claire asked. Losing your empire for one woman. Ethan didn't hesitate. Yes. Even if she dies anyway. Especially if she dies anyway. He met his mother's eyes. Because at least I'll know I tried. At least I'll know I chose love over power. At least I'll be able to look at myself and see something other than my father's son. Claire's expression softened. You really love her. More than I knew was possible. Then we'll get her back. Claire's voice hardened with determination. Whatever it takes. Kyoto, 3 days later. Finding the tea house was easier than expected. Finding the courage to enter it was something else entirely. It sat in Jaean's quietest district, wedged between a traditional inn and a shrine no one visited. The building was old, not tourist attraction old, but genuinely ancient. Wood-worn smooth by centuries of footsteps. Sliding doors that moved without sound. A garden that looked like meditation translated into moss and stone. A small sign hung by the entrance. Single character, truth. This is it, Claire whispered. They'd spent 3 days preparing. Ethan had memorized everything Tokishi told them. Learned the protocols. Studied the history. Tried to understand what kind of man inspired fear across generations. None of it felt like enough. What if he refuses to see us? Ethan asked. Then Mia dies. Claire's brutal honesty was almost comforting. But we don't think about that. We think about what we'll say when he does see us. The truth. Your truth. Not mine. Not your father's. Yours. Ethan took a breath. What if my truth isn't enough? Then we tried. And trying is more than most people do. They approached the entrance. Before Ethan could knock, the door slid open. An old woman stood there. Tiny, bent with age, eyes sharp as broken glass. She studied them for a long moment, then spoke in Japanese so formal Ethan barely understood it. The Oyaban does not see petitioners today. When does he? Claire started. He sees you now or never. Choose. The woman stepped aside. Ethan and Claire exchanged glances. This wasn't how it was supposed to work. Tokishi said there were protocols, procedures, formal requests. But the door was open. And time was running out. They entered. Inside the tea house. The interior was exactly what Ethan expected and nothing like he imagined. Sparse. Simple. A single room with tatami mats, a low table, and the smell of green tea and incense. No decorations except a single scroll hanging on the wall. The calligraphy read, "All things end. Even endings." A man knelt at the table. He was ancient, 90, maybe older. Skin like paper stretched over bone. Hands that trembled slightly as they prepared tea with ritual precision. But his eyes were young. Sharp. Clear. The eyes of someone who'd seen empires rise and fall and learned to stop being surprised. Sit, he said without looking up. Ethan and Claire knelt across from him. The old woman who'd opened the door had vanished, leaving them alone with a man who supposedly held the power to overturn blood oaths. The Oyaban continued preparing tea. The silence stretched. Minutes passed. Finally, he poured 3 cups with exact precision. Placed one in front of Ethan, one in front of Claire, one for himself. "Drink," he said. "Then speak." The tea was bitter. Perfect. It tasted like every important moment in Ethan's life. First kill, first love, first time he realized he'd become his father and hated himself for it. When Ethan set down the cup, the Oyaban finally looked at him. "Vincent Corleone's son," he said softly. "I was wondering when you would come. You were expecting me. I have been expecting you since the day you were born." The Oyaban's smile was sad. "Your father killed my grandson. Did you know that?" Ethan's blood froze. "No, of course not. Vincent didn't tell you anything that might make you question his righteousness." The Oyaban sipped his tea. "My grandson was 23. Idealistic. Foolish. He thought he could negotiate with Vincent, find a peaceful resolution to a territorial dispute. Vincent shot him in the head and burned his body to ash. I'm sorry. Don't apologize for your father's sins. That's cowardice." The Oyaban's voice went hard. "You are here because a woman you love is being punished for loving you. You want me to overturn the blood oath. To spare her life. Yes. Yes. Why should I?" Ethan had prepared for this question. Had rehearsed answers. But sitting in front of this ancient man who'd lost his grandson to Ethan's father, all the prepared speeches felt hollow. So he told the truth. "Because she doesn't deserve to die for my father's crimes. No one deserves their fate. That's not how fate works. Then because she's family. Mia is your blood. Claire's niece, your great-niece. Doesn't that matter? Family who betrayed us." The Oyaban set down his cup. "She was sent to watch you. Instead, she fell in love with you. That is not loyalty. That is weakness." "That's humanity," Ethan shot back. "She didn't choose to stop being loyal. She chose to also love me. Both things can be true. Not in our world." "Then your world is wrong." The temperature dropped. Claire made a small sound. Warning, fear, don't anger him. But the Oyaban just studied Ethan with those impossibly young eyes. "You have your father's arrogance," he said finally. "Maybe. But I'm trying not to have his cruelty. Trying is not succeeding. It's a start." The Oyaban laughed. Actual laughter. Dry and papery but genuine. "You're more interesting than I expected. Vincent's son with Claire's heart. Tell me, if I refuse your request, what will you do?" "Find another way." "There is no other way." "Then I'll make one." "How? With violence? With money? With threats?" The Oyaban leaned forward. "You are one man, Ethan Corleone. The Nakamura clan is 1,000 years old. What can one man do against that?" "One man can choose love over fear," Ethan said quietly. "One man can decide that tradition matters less than the person sleeping next to him. One man can look at his father's legacy and say no more." Pretty words. "They're all I have." The Oyaban sat back, closed his eyes. For a long moment, Ethan thought he'd fallen asleep, or died. Then he spoke. "When my grandson died, I swore the blood oath myself. I demanded every Corleone be erased from existence. I wanted Vincent to suffer the way I suffered, watching his bloodline burn." The Oyaban opened his eyes. But Vincent was already dead by then. Cancer. He died comfortable in his bed, never knowing what he'd set in motion. "So you targeted me?" "Yes. Because you are his legacy. His blood. His sins continued." "I didn't know about any of this," Ethan said desperately. "I didn't know about the blood feud, about my mother, about Mia. I was just trying to survive my father's world." "Ignorance is not innocence." "No. But it's not guilt either." The Oyaban stood slowly, joints crackling. He walked to the scroll on the wall, touched it gently. "All things end," he read. "Even endings. Do you know what that means? That nothing lasts forever. That even our deepest hurts eventually become stories we tell." He turned back to face them. "I have been angry for 25 years. I have fed my rage with ritual and revenge and the blood of people who never wronged me personally. And what has it brought me? Nothing. My grandson is still dead. My family is still broken. The only thing that's grown is the emptiness. Hope sparked in Ethan's chest. Then end it. Let Mia live. Break the cycle. It's not that simple. It never is. Do it anyway. The Oyaban studied him for a long, terrible moment. Then he smiled. You remind me of my grandson, he said softly. Foolish. Idealistic. Believing that love can change the world. His smile faded. He was wrong too. Please, Ethan started. I will not overturn the blood oath. The words fell like a death sentence. Ethan's world tilted. But, however, the Oyaban continued, I will offer you an alternative. One that honors both tradition and your persistence. What alternative? Trial by ordeal. An old tradition, rarely used. You will be tested, physically, mentally, spiritually. If you survive, I will commute Mia's sentence to exile. She lives, but she can never return to Japan or Korea. She can never contact the Nakamura clan again. You both disappear. And if I fail? Then you die. And Mia's ritual continues as planned. Claire grabbed Ethan's arm. No. This is a trap. The trials are designed to kill. I accept, Ethan said. Ethan. I accept. He looked at the Oyaban. When do we start? Now. The Oyaban gestured to the door. You have 72 hours. 3 trials. Each one designed to break a different part of you. Survive all 3, and she goes free. What are the trials? You'll learn when you face them. That's the point. The Oyaban's expression was unreadable. But know this, these trials have killed stronger men than you. Smarter men. Men with nothing to lose. You're walking into this with everything to lose. That makes you vulnerable. Or motivated. We'll see. The old woman reappeared. Bowed. This way. Ethan stood. Looked at his mother, who was crying silently. Mom. Come back, she whispered. Whatever happens in there, come back. I will. Promise me. Ethan hesitated. Because he couldn't promise that. Couldn't promise anything except that he'd try. But he said it anyway. I promise. He followed the old woman through a door he hadn't noticed before, downstairs that seemed to descend forever, into darkness that smelled like earth and old blood and the weight of tradition. Behind him, he heard Claire sob. In front of him, the first trial waited. And in Seoul, in her cell, Mia woke from a nightmare to find Keiko standing over her. Change of plans, Keiko said with a cold smile. Your beloved just accepted trial by ordeal. Which means if he dies, we start your ritual early. She leaned close. I'd pray, but the Oyaban doesn't listen to traitors. Mia closed her eyes. And prayed anyway. Not to the Oyaban. To whatever force in the universe kept reckless men alive when they decided love was worth dying for. Please, she thought. Just this once. Let him win. The underground chamber was exactly what nightmares looked like when you were awake. Circular. Stone walls sweating moisture. A single light hanging from chains, swaying slightly, casting shadows that moved wrong. The floor was dirt, packed hard by centuries of feet, most of which never walked out again. Ethan stood in the center, still wearing the clothes he'd traveled in. No weapons. No tools. Nothing except his body and whatever will he could scrape together. The old woman had led him here in silence, then left without a word. The door, a massive iron thing that looked medieval, had closed with finality. Now he waited. The light swayed. A sound echoed from somewhere, metal grinding against stone. Getting closer. Then the wall opened. Not a door. The entire wall section slid away, revealing a corridor that descended into darkness. From that darkness, something moved. No, not something. Someone. A man emerged into the light. He was huge, 6'5", maybe 260, all muscle and scar tissue. His head was shaved. His eyes were dead. He wore only loose pants, and his torso was covered in tattoos that Ethan recognized immediately. Nakamura clan marks. But old style. Traditional. The kind you only got after killing 20 men in single combat. First trial, the man said. His voice sounded like gravel in a blender. You fight until one of us can't continue. No rules. No mercy. Win, you advance. Lose, you die. That's it. Ethan asked. Just a fight. Just a fight. The man smiled. It wasn't friendly. I've killed 43 men in this room. You'll be 44. Or you'll be my first. Optimism. I like that. It makes the fear taste better. The light went out. Ethan's combat training kicked in immediately. Stay calm, track sound, don't panic in darkness. He'd been in fights before. Dozens of them. His father had made sure he could handle himself. But this was different. Because the man didn't attack right away. He waited, breathing in the dark, letting Ethan's imagination do the work. Every sound became a threat. Every whisper of air movement could be a fist. Then, impact. A punch to Ethan's ribs, perfectly placed, driving the air from his lungs. He staggered, swung blind, hit nothing. Another hit. This time to his kidney. Precise. Painful. Professional. Ethan realized with cold certainty. This man could see in the dark. Or had fought in this room so many times he'd memorized every inch. Don't panic. Adapt. Ethan dropped low, sweeping his leg in a wide arc connected with something. Ankle, maybe, and heard the man grunt. First blood. Metaphorically. But the man recovered instantly. Grabbed Ethan's extended leg and twisted. Pain exploded up Ethan's spine. He rolled with the motion, breaking the grip, scrambling away. His back hit a wall. He pressed against it, using it as an anchor, forcing the man to come from limited angles. Another attack. This time Ethan was ready. He caught the incoming fist, used the momentum to slam the man's face into the stone wall. Crack. The sound of a nose breaking. The man laughed. Better, he said, voice distorted by blood. Maybe you'll last 10 minutes. They circled each other in darkness. Ethan's eyes were adjusting, barely. He could make out the man's silhouette against the slightly less dark background. The man attacked again, a combination of punches that Ethan barely blocked. One got through, split his lip, sent him reeling. Focus. This wasn't about winning. It was about surviving. No, it was about more than that. It was about proving to himself that he wasn't his father. That when pushed to the edge, he'd choose to fight for love instead of power. That he'd endure. Ethan changed tactics. Stopped trying to win, started trying to last. He absorbed hits he couldn't avoid. Returned strikes when he could. Made his body a weapon and a shield simultaneously. Time became fluid. Could have been minutes. Could have been hours. Pain accumulated like interest on a debt. His ribs cracked, his jaw swelled, his vision blurred from a hit he didn't see coming. But he didn't fall. And slowly, impossibly, the man started slowing down. Because Ethan had one advantage: desperation. The man was fighting for honor. Ethan was fighting for her. Finally, after an eternity compressed into darkness and violence, Ethan saw his opening. The man was favoring his right side. The kidney shots Ethan had landed earlier were adding up. His breathing was labored. Ethan waited. Patience. The man lunged, a finishing blow, meant to end this. Ethan sidestepped, grabbed the man's extended arm, and used every ounce of remaining strength to drive his elbow into the man's temple. Once. Twice. 3 times. The man dropped. Not dead, but unconscious. Ethan stood over him, swaying, barely able to breathe. Blood dripped from his face into the dirt. The lights came back on. The old woman stood in the doorway. Her expression hadn't changed. Trial 1 complete, she said. Rest. You have 6 hours before trial 2. The recovery room. They led him to a small chamber with a sleeping mat, water, and basic medical supplies. Ethan collapsed. His entire body screamed. Ribs were definitely cracked, maybe broken. His left eye was swelling shut. His hands were shattered from hitting stone and flesh. But he was alive. A woman entered, not the old woman, someone younger. She carried supplies and didn't speak as she began treating his wounds with efficient brutality. How many people have completed all 3 trials? Ethan asked through split lips. 5. In how long? 100 years. Great odds. The woman almost smiled. The body trial is easiest. It's just pain. The next 2. She trailed off. What are they? You'll see. She finished bandaging him, left water and rice, then departed without another word. Ethan ate mechanically, drank until his stomach hurt, then lay back and stared at the ceiling. 6 hours to rest. 6 hours to think about what came next. 6 hours to imagine Mia in her cell, waiting, wondering if he'd survive or if her sacrifice would mean nothing. I'm coming, he thought. Whatever it takes. I'm coming. Trial 2. The mind. 6 hours passed like 6 minutes. The old woman returned, led him to a different chamber. This one was smaller. Just a room with a chair and a table and a single object on that table. A photograph. Ethan approached slowly, looked down, froze. The photograph showed him at 19 years old, standing over a body. The traitor his father had made him execute. The moment that turned him into his father's son. Second trial, the old woman said from the doorway. Face your truth. Then she left, closing the door behind her. Ethan stared at the photograph. The room began to change. Not physically, but perceptually. The walls seemed to breathe. The air grew heavy. And suddenly Ethan wasn't alone anymore. The man from the photograph stood in front of him. Not a ghost. Not real. Something in between. Remember me? The man asked. His voice was exactly as Ethan remembered. Pleading. Desperate. You said you were sorry before you pulled the trigger. You're not real, Ethan said. Does that matter? I'm dead either way. More figures appeared. Every person Ethan had killed. Every order he'd given that resulted in death. Every life he'd taken or destroyed in service of power. 18 people. 18 ghosts that weren't ghosts. You're just like your father, one said. Worse, another added. Vincent at least believed in something. You just killed because it was easier than being weak. No, Ethan said. I killed to survive. Everyone kills to survive. That's not an excuse. That's cowardice. The room filled with voices. Accusations. Truths he'd buried under justifications and necessity. You enjoyed the power. You could have walked away. You chose this. Ethan sank into the chair, head in his hands. This was the trial. Not fighting ghosts. Facing the fact that they were right. He was his father's son. He'd built an empire on blood. He'd become the thing he hated. And Mia had loved him anyway. That thought cut through the chaos like a blade. Mia had loved him anyway. Not because she was blind to what he was, but because she saw what he was and chose to see what he could be. Ethan lifted his head, looked at the phantoms surrounding him. You're right, he said quietly. Everything you're saying is true. I am my father's son. I did kill you. I did build power on blood. And I can't take any of it back. The voices quieted. But I can choose different, Ethan continued. I can be what I was and what I'm becoming simultaneously. I can carry the weight of my crimes and still try to be better. Not because it erases the past. Because it honors the future. The first man, the one from the photograph, stepped closer. You think love redeems you? He asked. No. Love just makes me want to try to be redeemed. The man studied him. Then slowly, impossibly, he smiled. Maybe that's enough, he said. One by one, the phantoms faded. Until only Ethan remained, sitting in a chair in an empty room with a photograph that suddenly didn't have power over him anymore. The door opened. Trial 2 complete, the old woman said. Ethan stood. His body still screamed from the first trial. His mind felt scraped raw from the second. But something had changed. Some burden had shifted. How long until trial 3? He asked. 1 hour. What is it? The hardest one. The old woman met his eyes. The spirit. The place where you decide who you are and what you're willing to sacrifice to be that person. Trial 3. The spirit. They led him to a final chamber. This one was different from the others. Beautiful. Almost. A traditional Japanese room with paper screens, soft light, and the smell of incense. At the center was a low table. Across from it sat the Oyaban. Sit, the ancient man said. Ethan Saturday. The Oyaban poured tea with the same ritual precision as before. Placed a cup in front of Ethan. Drink. Ethan drank. The tea tasted like nothing. The final trial, the Oyaban said, is simple. I will ask you one question. Answer truthfully, and you pass. Lie, even a small lie, even a lie you think is merciful, and you fail. What's the question? The Oyaban's eyes held the weight of centuries. If you could save Mia but it meant becoming exactly like your father, ruthless, cruel, powerful, empty, would you do it? Ethan's breath caught. This was the trial. Not fighting. Not facing guilt. But choosing between love and identity. Ethan started. Stopped. Because the honest answer would condemn him. But lying would kill Mia. Take your time, the Oyaban said. But know that I will see through any deception. This is not a test of your love for her. It's a test of whether you love yourself enough to be honest about who you are. Ethan thought about his father. About the empire of cruelty Vincent built. About the man who killed without hesitation and died without regret. He thought about Mia. About her smile. Her laugh. The way she looked at him like he was more than his worst moments. And he realized the truth. No, Ethan said finally. I wouldn't become my father to save her. Because if I did, I wouldn't be the man she fell in love with. I'd be the monster she was supposed to be protecting herself from. And saving her body while destroying what we had. That's not salvation. That's just a different kind of death. The Oyaban sat motionless. So you'd let her die? No. I'd find another way. Or I'd die trying to find another way. But I wouldn't sacrifice who I am, who I'm trying to become, for power. Not even for her. That's a selfish answer. Maybe, but it's honest. The Oyaban smiled. Genuinely smiled. Yes, he said softly. It is. He stood, joints crackling. You have passed the trials, Ethan Corleone. Not because you are strong or clever or desperate. But because you are honest about your limitations. About what you will and won't sacrifice. That is wisdom my grandson never learned. Relief flooded through Ethan so intensely he nearly fell over. Then Mia will be released. Exiled. Forbidden from ever returning. You both will disappear, and the blood oath will be considered satisfied through your ordeal. The Oyaban paused. But understand, if you ever return to this world, if you ever draw the Nakamura clan's attention again, there will be no more trials. Only execution. I understand. Do you? You're giving up your empire. Your name. Your identity. You'll be a ghost, same as your mother. Can you live with that? Ethan thought about Mia. About building a life somewhere quiet. Somewhere the violence couldn't reach. Learning to be normal. Learning to be happy. Yes, he said. I can live with that. The reunion. They brought Mia to him 3 days later in a neutral location. A beach north of Osaka, empty except for wind and waves and the promise of something new. She looked different. Thinner. Tired. But alive. Alive. When she saw him, she ran. Ethan caught her, held her, felt her shake against him with sobs that were relief and grief and love all tangled together. You idiot, she gasped. You incredible, reckless idiot. I know. You could have died. I know. You should have let me go. Never. She pulled back just enough to look at him, to see the bruises still healing, the cuts, the evidence of what he'd endured. What did they make you do? Nothing I won't tell you about eventually. Ethan cupped her face. But right now, I just need to look at you and remember why I survived. She kissed him. Desperate. Grateful. Alive. When they pulled apart, Claire was standing nearby with the Oyaban, an unlikely pair, giving them distance but present as witnesses. Where will you go? Claire asked. Somewhere quiet, Ethan said. Somewhere we can be normal. There's a house, the Oyaban said. In New Zealand. Remote. Safe. It belonged to my grandson before he died. It's been empty for 25 years. He looked at Ethan. Consider it payment. For teaching an old man that revenge is just grief with a target. Thank you. Don't thank me. Honor him. Live the life he couldn't. One more thing. Before you continue to the ending, I need to know, are you still with me? This story is hitting its final stretch, and what comes next will determine everything. Drop a comment. Do you think Ethan and Mia get their happy ending? Or is there one more twist waiting? And if this story has grabbed you, if you felt every moment right alongside them, hit that subscribe button. Because I promise you, the way this ends will stay with you long after you finish reading. Don't miss the conclusion. Subscribe now. Red Heart Hash. 6 months later, Queenstown, New Zealand. The house sat on the edge of a lake that looked like someone had painted it into existence. Mountains rose in the distance, snow-capped and ancient. The air smelled clean in a way that Seoul never had, like the world was starting over. Ethan stood on the dock, watching sunrise paint the water gold. Behind him, the house that was slowly becoming home. Small. Simple. No guards. No cameras. No steel doors or panic rooms. Just normal. It was the most terrifying thing he'd ever experienced. Coffee, Mia said, appearing beside him with 2 mugs. She'd gained back the weight she'd lost, color returning to her face. Her hair was longer now, pulled back in a ponytail, and she wore clothes that would have been unthinkable in their old life. Jeans and a sweater, comfortable and soft. Thanks. Ethan took the mug, wrapped his arm around her. You were up early, she said. Couldn't sleep. Nightmares. No. Just. He struggled for words. Waiting for the other shoe to drop. For someone to find us. For this to be revealed as temporary. It's not temporary. How do you know? Because we died back there. Mia looked up at him. The people we were, the spy and the crime lord, they don't exist anymore. We're different people now. Building different lives. You really believe that? I have to. Otherwise, what was it all for? Ethan kissed the top of her head. You're right. I know you're right. It's just hard to believe in happily ever after when you've seen how stories actually end. Yeah. They stood in comfortable silence, watching the sun climb higher. In the distance, birds called. The world moved around them, indifferent and beautiful. A phone rang inside the house. They both tensed. The phone never rang. They'd set up exactly one contact, Claire, checking in once a week to confirm they were safe. But it was Wednesday. Claire called on Sundays. Ethan went inside, Mia following close. He picked up the phone, suspicious. Yes. Ethan. Claire's voice, but strained. We have a problem. His blood went cold. What problem? Keiko is dead. Murdered 3 days ago. And the Nakamura Council is in chaos. They think you did it. That's insane. I'm in. He stopped, remembered they never spoke locations on phone lines, even secured ones. I'm nowhere near Japan. I haven't been since. I know. But someone wanted it to look like you. They used your signature method. 2 shots, close range, left the calling card you used to use. Ethan's mind raced. I never told anyone about the calling card. Only my inner circle knew. Exactly. Which means someone from your old syndicate is either framing you or trying to restart the war. Why would they do that? Power vacuum. With you gone, Seoul's underworld is fragmenting. Maybe someone thinks dragging you back into conflict will consolidate things. Or maybe, Claire paused. Maybe someone wants you dead and this is the fastest way to make it happen. The Oyaban is furious. He made a deal with you in good faith. If he believes you broke it. Her voice shook. He'll send everyone. And this time, there won't be trials. Just execution. Ethan closed his eyes. How long do we have? Days. Maybe less. They're already mobilizing. Then we run. Disappear again. Ethan, there's nowhere you can run that they won't find. The Nakamura clan has reach in every country. You need to prove it wasn't you. Find who actually killed Keiko. And you need to do it before. The line went dead. Not naturally. Someone had cut it. Ethan turned to Mia, who'd gone pale. Pack, he said. Now. We're leaving. Where are we going? I don't. The windows exploded inward. Not glass breaking, thermal charges, designed to blow out barriers for rapid entry. Ethan's combat instincts kicked in before conscious thought. He grabbed Mia, dragged her down as armed figures flooded through the windows. Not Nakamura clan, these were different. Professional military contractors, judging by their gear. Contact, one shouted. Ethan rolled, grabbing a kitchen knife, the only weapon in the house. It felt pathetic against assault rifles, but it was something. We just want to talk, a voice called. American accent. Stand down, Mr. Corleone. Not great at talking through windows. Ethan shouted back. Fair point. But we're not here to kill you. We're here to offer a deal. Ethan stayed low, keeping Mia behind him. What deal? You're being framed. We know who did it. And we'll give you the evidence to prove your innocence, for a price. What price? One job. One last job. Then you get your life back. This was a trap. Had to be. But it was also the only option that didn't end with them running forever or dying in this house. Show yourself, Ethan demanded. A woman stepped forward, hands raised. She was in her 50s, professionally dressed despite the tactical team behind her. She carried herself with the confidence of someone used to getting what she wanted. My name is Director Sarah Mitchell. I run a private intelligence firm. And I've been watching you for a very long time. Watching me. You're Vincent Corleone's son. Your mother is the Nakamura clan's most valuable asset. You survived trials that killed dozens. And you walked away from an empire to save one woman. Mitchell smiled. That's a unique skill set. Valuable to certain, interested parties. I'm retired. So was I. Then the world reminded me that people like us don't get to retire. We get to choose who owns us next. Ethan's grip tightened on the knife. And you want to own me? I want to employ you. One job. High-value target, impossible access. The kind of thing that requires someone who understands criminal networks from the inside. Mitchell lowered her hands. In exchange, I give you the evidence proving you didn't kill Keiko. Plus, I make sure the Nakamura clan gets the real killer. You go back to your peaceful life. Everyone wins. Except the target you want me to hit. He's not a good person. Trust me. I don't trust anyone. Smart. Mitchell gestured, and one of her team handed her a tablet. She tossed it to Ethan. There's your evidence. Video showing Marcus, your former second-in-command, killing Keiko. Turns out he's been working with a Chinese syndicate to frame you, eliminate the Nakamura clan's leadership, and take over Seoul's underworld using your name. Ethan stared at the screen. It showed Marcus, unmistakably, shooting Keiko execution style, then planting evidence pointing to Ethan. Marcus, Ethan whispered. The man he'd trusted for a decade. The man he'd left in charge when he disappeared. Betrayal stings, Mitchell said. But it also clarifies things. You help me, I help you take down Marcus and clear your name. You don't, and the Nakamura clan burns you both to ash without caring who's actually guilty. Mia grabbed Ethan's arm. Don't. This is a trap. We run. We can't run from this, Ethan said quietly. She's right. If the Nakamura clan thinks I broke the deal, they'll hunt us forever. And innocent people will die in the crossfire. He looked at Mitchell. What's the job? There's a weapons dealer in Prague. Sells to terrorists, cartels, anyone with money. He's got a shipment of bioweapons scheduled to move next week. We need someone to infiltrate his operation and sabotage it from the inside. You have entire intelligence agencies for that. And he has counterintelligence that's made him untouchable. But you. Mitchell smiled. You speak the language of criminals. You know how these networks operate. You can get close where we can't. And if I refuse? Then I keep this evidence. Marcus keeps destroying lives, and you spend the rest of your short life running. Mitchell's smile faded. I'm offering you a chance to fix this. To protect Mia. To actually be the hero you're pretending to be. Take it or leave it. Ethan looked at Mia. Saw the fear in her eyes. The desperate hope that he'd refuse, that they'd find another way. But there was no other way. There never had been. One job, Ethan said. Then I'm done. Completely. You clear my name, handle Marcus, and never contact me again. Deal. Mitchell extended her hand. Ethan shook it, feeling like he was signing away his soul. When do we leave? He asked. 2 hours. My team will prep you on the flight. Mitchell turned to go, then paused. For what it's worth, Mr. Corleone, I am sorry. You deserved your peace. But the world isn't done with you yet. Then she was gone, her team following, leaving Ethan and Mia alone in their shattered house with broken windows and broken dreams. Mia was crying silently. I'm sorry, Ethan said. Don't apologize for trying to protect us. Just. She grabbed his face, forced him to look at her. Come back. Whatever happens in Prague, whatever this job is, come back to me. I will. Promise. I promise. They held each other as the sun climbed higher, knowing that their borrowed peace was over. Knowing that one last job was never really just one last job. Knowing that the world they tried to escape had found them anyway. But also knowing, in a way that mattered more than fear, that they'd face it together. Even if together meant Ethan going to Prague while Mia waited in New Zealand, terrified and alone. Because that's what love was. Not the absence of sacrifice. Just the choice to keep choosing each other, no matter what the world demanded. The weapons dealer's name was Dmitry Volkov, and he threw parties that would make dictators jealous. Ethan stood in a penthouse overlooking the Vltava River, surrounded by arms dealers, mercenaries, and the kind of people who made his old syndicate look charitable. Classical music played. Champagne flowed. Everyone smiled with predatory politeness. He'd infiltrated as Victor Chen, a rising Chinese crime lord looking to expand into European markets. Mitchell's team had built the identity perfectly. Fake background, planted references, even staged a minor conflict with a rival syndicate to establish credibility. Volkov himself was across the room, 60, distinguished, the kind of man who could order massacres while discussing opera. He was surrounded by bodyguards and sycophants, but Ethan had done his research. Volkov had a weakness, art. Specifically, stolen art. More specifically, a Vermeer painting that had been stolen from the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum 30 years ago and never recovered. Mitchell's intelligence said Volkov had it hidden in his vault. The plan was simple. Get close to Volkov, gain access to his private collection, plant a tracker on the bioweapons shipment while pretending to admire paintings, then extract before anyone noticed. Simple. Suicidal, but simple. Mr. Chen, a voice said behind him. Ethan turned. One of Volkov's lieutenants, a woman named Irina who'd been vetting him all week. Irina. Lovely party. Dmitry wants to meet you. He's interested in your proposal regarding the Asian routes. Of course. She led him through the crowd. Ethan's heart rate stayed calm, years of practice controlling physical responses to stress. But his mind raced, cataloging exits, threats, contingencies. Volkov looked up as they approached. His eyes were sharp, calculating, the eyes of someone who'd survived decades in the world's deadliest business. "Mr. Chen," Volkov said in accented English. "Irina tells me you have interesting distribution networks." "I have access," Ethan replied carefully. "Whether they're interesting depends on what you need moved. Everything is interesting when moved correctly." Volkov gestured to a private balcony. "Walk with me." They stepped outside. The city spread below them, beautiful and cold. Volkov lit a cigar, didn't offer Ethan one. "You know what I appreciate about this business?" Volkov asked. "Clarity. No moral ambiguity. We sell death. Everyone knows it. We don't pretend it's something else." "Clarity is underrated," Ethan agreed. "Yes. So let me be clear with you." Volkov turned, and his eyes were suddenly ice. "I know you're not Victor Chen." Ethan's blood froze. His hand moved toward the concealed weapon Mitchell's team had smuggled in, but Volkov raised a hand. "Easy. I'm not exposing you. I'm hiring you." "I don't. I know who you really are, Ethan Corleone. And I know why you're here. Director Mitchell's operation has more leaks than the Titanic. I've known about this infiltration for 3 days." Ethan's mind raced through options. Fight? Run? Bluff? "Then why let me in?" he asked carefully. "Because I have a better offer." Volkov smiled. "Mitchell wants you to sabotage my bioweapons shipment. But that shipment is just a decoy. The real product is already moved. What I actually have is something far more valuable to you." "Which is?" "Marcus. Your traitorous second-in-command. He's here. In Prague. Working with the Chinese syndicate. Planning to eliminate you permanently. I know where he is. I know his security protocols. And I'll give you everything you need to take him down. If you do something for me first." "What?" "Kill Director Mitchell." The words hung in the cold Prague air. "She's a problem," Volkov continued. "Her organization has been disrupting my operations for years. I want her gone. You do that, I give you Marcus. You get revenge, clear your name with the Nakamura clan, and I get rid of a persistent annoyance. Everyone wins. Except Mitchell. She knew the risks when she entered this world." Volkov tapped ash from his cigar. "You have until midnight to decide. After that, I sell information about your location to every interested party, including the Nakamura clan. Clock's ticking, Mr. Corleone." He walked back inside, leaving Ethan alone on the balcony. The choice. Ethan called the emergency number Mitchell had given him. She answered immediately. "Abort," Ethan said. "Volkov knows. It's compromised." "Already extracting," Mitchell replied. "But Ethan, we intercepted communications. Marcus is in Prague. Meeting with Volkov's people tomorrow night. Volkov told me." "Then you know this is your chance. We can grab Marcus, clear your name. Volkov wants me to kill you first." Silence on the line. Then Mitchell laughed. Actually laughed. "Of course he does. Old bastard's been trying to get rid of me for years. What did you tell him?" "I didn't. Yet." "Are you considering it?" Ethan thought about Mia, waiting in New Zealand. About the life they'd built. About how close they'd come to peace before this started. "No," he said finally. "I'm not becoming my father. Not even for her." "Good. Because I have a better plan." Mitchell's voice turned sharp. "We use Volkov's expectation against him. You fake my assassination. We stage it convincingly enough that Volkov gives you Marcus. Then we take them both down simultaneously. That's complicated. That's the job. Are you in?" Ethan looked out over Prague. Somewhere in this city, Marcus was planning his death. Somewhere, Volkov was moving weapons that would kill thousands. Somewhere, Mia was alone and terrified. And somewhere, Ethan had to decide what kind of man he actually was. "I'm in," he said. "Tell me the plan." The execution. 24 hours later, Ethan stood in an abandoned warehouse with a gun pointed at Director Mitchell's head. Volkov's people watched via live feed, making sure the assassination was real. Mitchell knelt in front of him, hands bound, looking appropriately terrified. Any last words? Ethan asked for the camera. Just one, Mitchell said. Duck. Ethan dropped as explosives planted throughout the warehouse detonated, not large enough to kill, but enough to create chaos, smoke, and the convincing illusion of catastrophic violence. Mitchell's team flooded in through pre-positioned entry points. Gunfire erupted. Volkov's observers scrambled. In the confusion, Ethan and Mitchell escaped through a tunnel Mitchell's team had prepared, emerging 3 blocks away into a waiting vehicle. That was insane, Ethan gasped. That was effective, Mitchell corrected. She pulled out her phone. Volkov just confirmed he believes you killed me. He's sending Marcus's location now. The phone pinged. An address in Prague's industrial district. We move in 1 hour, Mitchell said. Are you ready? To face the man who betrayed me and tried to have me killed? Sure. Ready. Mitchell's expression softened. For what it's worth, you did good work. When this is over, you really do get to go home. You said that last time. Last time I was desperate. This time I'm grateful. She met his eyes. You're not your father, Ethan. You're better. And I'm going to make sure the world knows it. The confrontation. The warehouse was exactly the kind of place bad things happened. Ethan entered alone, as agreed. Marcus was waiting in the center, surrounded by Chinese syndicate soldiers. He looked older, stress lines around his eyes, gray threading through his hair. But his smile was the same. Confident. Cruel. Boss, Marcus said mockingly. I heard you died. The weapons dealer's name was Dmitry Volkov, and he threw parties that would make dictators jealous. Ethan stood in a penthouse overlooking the Vltava River, surrounded by arms dealers, mercenaries, and the kind of people who made his old syndicate look charitable. Classical music played. Champagne flowed. Everyone smiled with predatory politeness. He'd infiltrated as Victor Chen, a rising Chinese crime lord looking to expand into European markets. Mitchell's team had built the identity perfectly. Fake background, planted references, even staged a minor conflict with a rival syndicate to establish credibility. Volkov himself was across the room, 60, distinguished, the kind of man who could order massacres while discussing opera. He was surrounded by bodyguards and sycophants, but Ethan had done his research. Volkov had a weakness: art. Specifically, stolen art. More specifically, a Vermeer painting that had been stolen from the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum 30 years ago and never recovered. Mitchell's intelligence said Volkov had it hidden in his vault. The plan was simple: get close to Volkov, gain access to his private collection, plant a tracker on the bioweapons shipment while pretending to admire paintings, then extract before anyone noticed. Simple. Suicidal, but simple. Mr. Chen, a voice said behind him. Ethan turned. One of Volkov's lieutenants, a woman named Irina who'd been vetting him all week. Irina. Lovely party. Dmitry wants to meet you. He's interested in your proposal regarding the Asian roots. Of course. She led him through the crowd. Ethan's heart rate stayed calm, years of practice controlling physical responses to stress. But his mind raced, cataloging exits, threats, contingencies. Volkov looked up as they approached. His eyes were sharp, calculating, the eyes of someone who'd survived decades in the world's deadliest business. Mr. Chen, Volkov said in accented English. Irina tells me you have interesting distribution networks. I have access, Ethan replied carefully. Whether they're interesting depends on what you need moved. Everything is interesting when moved correctly. Volkov gestured to a private balcony. Walk with me. They stepped outside. The city spread below them, beautiful and cold. Volkov lit a cigar, didn't offer Ethan one. You know what I appreciate about this business? Volkov asked. Clarity. No moral ambiguity. We sell death. Everyone knows it. We don't pretend it's something else. Clarity is underrated, Ethan agreed. Yes. So let me be clear with you. Volkov turned, and his eyes were suddenly ice. I know you're not Victor Chen. Ethan's blood froze. His hand moved toward the concealed weapon Mitchell's team had smuggled in, but Volkov raised a hand. Easy. I'm not exposing you. I'm hiring you. I don't. I know who you really are, Ethan Corleone. And I know why you're here. Director Mitchell's operation has more leaks than the Titanic. I've known about this infiltration for 3 days. Ethan's mind raced through options. Fight? Run? Bluff? Then why let me in? He asked carefully. Because I have a better offer. Volkov smiled. Mitchell wants you to sabotage my bioweapons shipment. But that shipment is just a decoy. The real product is already moved. What I actually have is something far more valuable to you. Which is? Marcus. Your traitorous second-in-command. He's here. In Prague. Working with the Chinese syndicate. Planning to eliminate you permanently. I know where he is. I know his security protocols. And I'll give you everything you need to take him down. If you do something for me first. What? Kill Director Mitchell. The words hung in the cold Prague air. She's a problem, Volkov continued. Her organization has been disrupting my operations for years. I want her gone. You do that, I give you Marcus. You get revenge, clear your name with the Nakamura clan, and I get rid of a persistent annoyance. Everyone wins. Except Mitchell. She knew the risks when she entered this world. Volkov tapped ash from his cigar. You have until midnight to decide. After that, I sell information about your location to every interested party, including the Nakamura clan. Clock's ticking, Mr. Corleone. He walked back inside, leaving Ethan alone on the balcony. The choice. Ethan called the emergency number Mitchell had given him. She answered immediately. Abort, Ethan said. Volkov knows. It's compromised. Already extracting, Mitchell replied. But Ethan, we intercepted communications. Marcus is in Prague. Meeting with Volkov's people tomorrow night. Volkov told me. Then you know this is your chance. We can grab Marcus, clear your name. Volkov wants me to kill you first. Silence on the line. Then Mitchell laughed. Actually laughed. Of course he does. Old bastard's been trying to get rid of me for years. What did you tell him? I didn't. Yet. Are you considering it? Ethan thought about Mia, waiting in New Zealand. About the life they'd built. About how close they'd come to peace before this started. No, he said finally. I'm not becoming my father. Not even for her. Good. Because I have a better plan. Mitchell's voice turned sharp. We use Volkov's expectation against him. You fake my assassination. We stage it convincingly enough that Volkov gives you Marcus. Then we take them both down simultaneously. That's complicated. That's the job. Are you in? Ethan looked out over Prague. Somewhere in this city, Marcus was planning his death. Somewhere, Volkov was moving weapons that would kill thousands. Somewhere, Mia was alone and terrified. And somewhere, Ethan had to decide what kind of man he actually was. I'm in, he said. Tell me the plan. The execution. 24 hours later, Ethan stood in an abandoned warehouse with a gun pointed at Director Mitchell's head. Volkov's people watched via live feed, making sure the assassination was real. Mitchell knelt in front of him, hands bound, looking appropriately terrified. Any last words? Ethan asked for the camera. Just one, Mitchell said. Duck. Ethan dropped as explosives planted throughout the warehouse detonated, not large enough to kill, but enough to create chaos, smoke, and the convincing illusion of catastrophic violence. Mitchell's team flooded in through pre-positioned entry points. Gunfire erupted. Volkov's observers scrambled. In the confusion, Ethan and Mitchell escaped through a tunnel Mitchell's team had prepared, emerging 3 blocks away into a waiting vehicle. That was insane, Ethan gasped. That was effective, Mitchell corrected. She pulled out her phone. Volkov just confirmed he believes you killed me. He's sending Marcus's location now. The phone pinged. An address in Prague's industrial district. We move in 1 hour, Mitchell said. Are you ready? To face the man who betrayed me and tried to have me killed? Sure. Ready. Mitchell's expression softened. For what it's worth, you did good work. When this is over, you really do get to go home. You said that last time. Last time I was desperate. This time I'm grateful. She met his eyes. You're not your father, Ethan. You're better. And I'm going to make sure the world knows it. The confrontation. The warehouse was exactly the kind of place bad things happened. Ethan entered alone, as agreed. Marcus was waiting in the center, surrounded by Chinese syndicate soldiers. He looked older, stress lines around his eyes, gray threading through his hair. But his smile was the same. Confident. Cruel. Boss, Marcus said mockingly. I heard you died.